exciting than this. But never did she imagine that she'd discover it in her own home.
All right, now we're doing one of the creepiest kids movies ever made. Coraline. All right, so this movie is done by Henry Selick, who did like Nightmare Before Christmas, James and the Giant Peach, and he just last year he did Wendell and Wild, which was pretty good. And this is an adaptation of I think it was a book or something from writer Neil Gaiman, who is most famously known for doing character of the Sandman, which just became a Netflix series. So this story is about a girl who's, I guess, kind of needy. She and her parents moved to this like secluded house that, I guess they're giving it a very bad Yelp review. But they get there and she sees that she got a doll that looks like her, but this time it has buttons for eyes. And of course not first instinct going like, well, that's great craftsmanship, but no, I'm good. She ends up finding a door that leads her to another world where her parents are like super caring and loving, and the place looks just absolutely gorgeous, but the problem is that they have buttons for eyes. And, like I said, a kid's movie. So, there's nothing bad about that at all. So, and throughout the course of the film, she basically has to learn what this place is, but also try to kind of avoid it. So, I heard about this movie when, I think it was like a couple of years after it was released. I didn't see this movie in the theater, but I was aware of it, but I didn't see it until, I think, like 4 years after it came out. And thinking about it, I'm going like, okay, I don't know who Neil Gaiman is. I didn't know who he was at that point, but I did know Henry Selick did Nightmare Before Christmas. So I was going like, okay, maybe it's going to be like that kind of vibe, like kind of like a Tim Burton vibe. And it is in spots, but no. There was some pretty like odd things, and I would be like, within like 5 minutes of them entering the house, there was already parts where I'm going like, yeah, see, I wouldn't have unpacked the car. I just would have taken it, just left, and I'm like, I'm just gonna find a hotel for a little bit and then figure out the whole house situation now, because no. So yeah, it's a nice, it could be a nice house. It just needs a little fix up, but whatever. But the voice cast in this is really good. But honestly, to me, the standout voice of the film was Keith David, who voices the cat. And he's one of my favorite actors. He's one of those guys where you'll watch something and he'll just randomly be in it. And it's like, he's in everything. He's just one of those actors. And he's such an incredibly talented one too. But the just once stuff goes just haywire at a certain point, just the entire world around her just is like, yeah, this is just, I don't know what they slipped into the water, but this is not natural. This is not normal. And yeah, this is a bit odd, but nothing truly out of the ordinary, I don't think. at least. But, whatever. So this film, I've always been a fan of stop motion stuff. Like I really, I love Nightmare Before Christmas. James and the Giant Peach was a bit odd. Wendell Wild was really good. Last year they did Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, which was really amazing. So I'm a big fan of stop motion, and this movie was really, really good. The first time I saw it, I was like, this is like, reminds me of movies back in like the 80s and the 90s, where like PG rated movies weren't afraid to get dark at times. And the 2000s, this came out during like the very end of the 2000s, when a lot of kids movies were being like, filmmakers were going like, yeah, look, we know this is, aimed for kids, but we think that kids can get, or they can be quite mature. So yeah, in the 2000s you had this, you had Zathura, you had Scooby-Doo, where it was those kind of movies. They were like, okay, it's reaching a child age, but like Scooby-Doo, it had a lot of innuendos, and yep, quite a bit. Zathura, there were times where it got really dark, and I like, Zathura was a movie I watched so much when I was a kid, and then I rewatched it like a year ago after like not seeing it for a long time. And I was going like, I remember a lot of this stuff, and then some of the parts where it got dark, I'm like, wow, I completely forgot how dark that got. Another example was a movie that I watched a lot when I was a kid, was A Series of Unfortunate Events, where that film was a dark comedy, and it was saying like, we are gonna, we're gonna show you like some pretty dark and unfortunate stuff, and we're gonna trust that the audience, mainly kids out there, are open to this kind of stuff, and they're willing to step outside their comfort zone. That's what I think children's entertainment was so great in the 2000s, because there was a lot of stuff, not just movies, but like TV shows as well, that were coming out where they were trusting that kids, kind of step outside their comfort zone. And, yeah, you had your SpongeBob, you had that stuff, but like, like Teen Titans came out. Courage the Cowardly Dog was coming out. So you had these shows and movies that were reaching out to kids and going like, okay, this is kind of a stepping stone into becoming a little bit more mature. Let's see if they can handle it. And me, I grew up watching Teen Titans. I grew up watching Courage the Cowardly Dog, and those were my glimpses into stepping outside of comfort zones. And this movie is no exception. And like I said, this movie came like in the end of the 2000s, where kids movies were pushing the limit. They were going back to what the 80s were, but the problem was with the 80s, they didn't have like a set rating system at that time yet, where in the 2000s they did. And they were going like, yeah, there's some things in here where may get a higher rating, but let's see what happens. So Coraline is it's a great example of that. To sum up, the voice acting is really good. The stop motion is great. There's parts in it where I'm like, wow, that's just gorgeous. And it's like, I love watching stop motion, because you're like, that looked like it was painstaking. And this movie is what launched the company Leica, who went on to do like Paranorman, which was pretty good, Box Trolls, which I saw once and I haven't seen it since, and then it was Kubo and Missing Link, which I still haven't seen those. But this is kind of the movie that kickstarted it, and so I really enjoy this movie. It's definitely a movie that I think for the littlest kids, it's probably not a good start. But when they get older and they start experiencing stuff outside their comfort zone, this is definitely a good one to show them. And so this does get a great. It's not quite to the amazing like Nightmare Before Christmas, but it's pretty close. So I really enjoy this movie, and yeah, if I ever have kids, then I'm gonna be like, yeah, guess what I grew up with. It would be this.
Can't believe you did this!
And everything is so good.
What's shaking, baby?
It just can't be real.